What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 65 of the Hoop Venue podcast. My name is Tyler, and as always, I'm joined by my great friend Sean. We are officially 1 month into the NBA season, so it's time for Sean and I to make our first episode of the NBA season. Hopefully, this is, I feel like every single time we do an episode, it is, let's go ahead and lock down a consistent schedule. Sorry for the extended waiting period. We're going to be consistent from here on out, and then we just vanish off the face of the earth every single time. I'm like the boy who cried wolf at this point, but I actually think
we're good this time.
At least once a week, potentially twice a week some weeks. So hold us accountable. If we don't upload 1 week, I want you to hold us accountable. I want you to tag us on social media, go in the YouTube comments, and call us out. Don't ask where we are, like genuinely insult us for not being there. We are going to lock this down.
Do whatever you got to do.
Do whatever you got to do because we need to deliver podcasts. This has been like the best NBA season ever, and we are not talking about it. So I apologize for that. We are going to try and be better. But yeah, 1 month in the NBA season, a ton has happened. Most teams are like 13 to 15 games into their season, which means we're starting to see things kind of materialize in terms of what's real and what's fake. So today we're going to talk about a few teams that are either or underperforming kind of where everyone felt they were at the beginning of the season, and talk about what's sustainable, what's not, and what our expectations are moving forward. Before we get into any like specific topic, Sean, I want to ask you, have there been any teams or players that you feel like you were just dead wrong about, like coming into the season? Because I remember last year we kept revisiting the Rockets and the Cavs. I remember you were lower on the Cavs in particular, and then they just had that like 63, 62 win tour to 4 season. We were both lower on Houston, and we were like, why are people expecting them to win 50 games? And then they go in and win 52, was it, I believe, or 53?
Yeah.
So those were kind of the two.
Are bad.
Those were kind of the two off the last season. So are there any right now that you feel you either, and this could be a player or a team, like I said, that you feel you were either low or high on, and they're just completely different?
I guess we'll start with the ones that I feel like I was definitely lower on, and they've caught my attention. I will watch more of them, especially coming up. I was dead wrong about Toronto, and they've won 5 straight. They're now the 2 seed in a really weird Eastern Conference right now. Some teams have been dealing with injuries, like Trey hasn't played in a little bit now, although they were winning without Trey. The Knicks have had some weird stuff going on. The Pistons, have been ridiculous, even without Cade. Jalen Duren, by the way, has been ridiculous. But I don't know. I've just been notoriously lower, like always been lower on Toronto, because of just the guys that I never believed in the vision. And granted, you are still kind of early in the season, but dude, they're shooting 37% from 3. Scotty Barnes shooting 40% from 3 on about 4 attempts per game, which, okay, that seems kind of fake. But even besides him, like, they have enough other shooting. Like, you have Grady Dick, obviously, and he has even been incredibly high volume. He's actually slightly less volume on a per game basis. On a like per 100 possession basis, his volume would definitely be higher than Scotty. They have just enough shooting, and they have a lot. I love the role players. That's one thing I will say. I like a lot of these players individually, but going into the season, I just didn't really buy the vision. Phoenix has kind of surprised me, and we'll talk about them a little bit. But, really, the biggest ones, I guess, are how bad the Clippers have been. Yeah, that's just a miss. Woof. All the teams I thought were going to be really good have been really good, except the Clippers.
My 2 misses in terms of who I was high on coming in, and we'll talk about at least one of them today. The Clippers, obviously. I feel like everyone, like even the people who were calling it a retirement home and saying like they're old and slow,
nobody thought
weren't expecting this. Weren't expecting this. And the other one is, for me, and this is a team that I've been high on, we've talked about this a ton. You weren't as high on them, was Dallas. I did not expect.
I didn't think it would be this bad, though.
Yeah,
there's the injury
dude,
too,
the
though.
offense is like so bad. And I don't want to spend a ton of time. Well,
I will actually wave the white flag. Well, no, I will take my victory lap. I thought their offense would be bad. I thought their defense would be good enough to where we'll just pretend the offense wasn't bad during the regulars. It'd be one of those teams where, all right, their defense is good enough to win 45 to 48 games. They'll make the playoffs. They'll be like, oh, hey, they might sneak up on this team in the first round. And then when they get blasted in round one because their offense is so bad, we're all going to look shocked. Like, no, their offense has been terrible all year.
Well, I'm with you. The thing is, like, their defense has been good enough. Like, they've been like the number 2 or number 3 defense up to this point in the season. Their offense isn't just bad. It's like
historically
their first
bad.
10 games was like -12 relative offensive rating. It was the lowest relative offensive rating in NBA history, going back to like 1955, since the shot clock was implemented. And I didn't think it would be that bad. And I thought they'd kind of be like an Orlando Magic type team from a couple of years ago, where it's like, we have this number 2 defense, we have this number 27 offense or whatever, and we're going to win 45 or 44 games because our defense is so good. And I'm not fully giving up on Dallas because, like I said, there have been injuries, but the main thing is, like, some of it to me is just a stylistic miss from the, like, strategic standpoint. Like, there's no reason that team, one of my selling points with them offensively was, well, they can do what Houston does and just dominate the offensive glass. They've got PJ Washington, Flagg, AD, Gafford, Lively, all these elite positional crashers. And through the first 10 games or so, they were the worst offensive rebounding team in the league, which to me was just, it made no sense. They're missing all these shots, and then they're not getting any second chance opportunities. That to me is just a clear stylistic miss. Like, I genuinely think their offense would have been better if they just didn't even care about spacing the floor and just went for second chances. That's how bad it was, because they had all these like weaker shooters shooting threes and then not crashing. It made no sense to me. The other thing was the lack of transition play, because they're getting stops. They've got big, skilled athletes, and they weren't playing in transition at all, even after AD got hurt. So those are the two things that moving forward for Dallas, I feel like should just be like a point of emphasis. You get better as the season goes on. Play faster and try to crash the glass. And your offense should at least not be the worst in NBA history. But Cooper Flagg has been like on a constant uptick since the season started, like specifically down the stretch of the Milwaukee game. Like
all the overreactions on Cooper Flagg.
Yeah, because of the point guard stuff. I get it. It's like it was awkward, but I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the strategy of just throwing him into the fire like that, but he is the type of player that's always figured it out. And specifically down the stretch of the Bucks-Mavs game, he was going band for band in the clutch with Giannis. And they were both just like, they looked unstoppable going to the rim, both of them on both ends. And I thought that was like Cooper Flagg's arrival party. And then he had another big game. I can't remember who it was against.
Played really well against Portland. I think that's what it was.
That might be who I'm thinking of. And then he also had another game where he was relatively quiet up until the fourth quarter. Then it went to double OT, I think, and he was really good down the stretch of that game.
That might have been the Portland game.
That might have been the Portland game.
No, Clippers. Because he had like back-to-back go-ahead buckets in the Clippers game.
Yeah. So, yeah, Cooper Flagg, I really liked his kind of progression through the season. I think Brandon Williams is a nice, fun player, too. They've got guys, man. It's just about figuring out what... I don't even know what you do if you're the Mavs, but I actually want to talk about the Raptors for a sec, because they're another team that I wouldn't necessarily say I was lower on. I was specifically lower on one aspect of them, and that was the half-court offense. I was like, I think Ingram's an awesome player. I think between his lack of a pull-up three-point shot and the lack of rim pressure, he's not necessarily this go-to half-court creator. And then in the same line of thinking, Scotty Barnes being more of like a specialist on-ball creator, not necessarily a break-you-down isolation or spread pick-and-roll type of offensive player. Emmanuel Quickley, same thing. Lack of rim pressure, lack of free throw pressure, more of like a jump shot reliant creator. To me, they kind of put together this collection of complementary guys. And I felt like they were missing a consistent half-court presence that could really break down defenses and just pick them apart. And I do still view that as somewhat of a limitation come playoff time. But, like, I kind of understated how valuable it is in the regular season to just have a bunch of skilled offensive players who can do multiple things. Like, you can run your offense through legitimately any one of their 5 starters. And do, like you can go to Pirtle up top and go to delay action. You can go to Pirtle in the middle and start running, like, split cuts. You can post up Pirtle against a mismatch. You can run Scotty in ball screen action.
I'm joking. I was making a joke. Like, how many times are we going to say Jakob Pirtle initiator
He's
action?
obviously an all-star. No, he's been awesome, though. He's been really good. Scotty can post up mismatches, can face up against mismatches, can run ball screen action as a ball handler or screener. Ingram, they've got using Ingram quite a bit as a screener or a ball handler in pick and roll. He's curling off of off-ball screens for that mid-range jumper, using his length well in the paint. Quickly, spread pick and roll stuff. Transition. They play really fast, and they've got a bunch of guys who can just make good decisions and score at multiple levels. So I do think I underrated that part of Toronto. Just having like 11 competent offensive players in your rotation. And Sandro Mamukelashvili's been awesome as their backup big. CMB looked awesome for his first few games. So yeah, I would say I was a bit lower on Toronto. I don't really know what to expect. Like, okay, Toronto right now is 10-5, 2 seed. They're currently on pace, win percentage wise, to win 55 games. I don't expect that. I think before the season I had them at like 39 or 40 wins. I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. I think right now watching Toronto, to me, they look like a 47 or 48 win team. But they do still strike me as the type of offense that's a bit better in the regular season than it will be against a defense with more intentional scheming. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that's accurate, because I think with playoff basketball, obviously there's a lot of different tendencies that'll just get honed in a lot more, and I think we'll just see a lot of their limitations get more brought to the light, if that makes sense. Especially like in a playoff series against the Pistons, for example. Like a Pistons matchup against the Raptors, I don't really think bodes well for the Raptors. They can, I think, potentially even like Atlanta sneakily. Now they can like just haunt Trey. But there's some bad defensive matchups in their form in the East, but also they have the potential to still, I think, at least win a playoff series if they get the right matchup. Sure. There's some teams in the East that I think match up really, really well with them. And like you said, the fact that they have multiple different engines offensively that they can go to for offensive creation, like you said, Scotty post-ups or Scotty just face-ups in general, Scotty ball screens, quickly DHO action, quickly off-ball, quickly in ball screens, Brandon Ingram in isolation. Like, they have a lot of different actions they can throw at you, which could give them enough offensive versatility for the playoffs, but do they have the exact offensive, like, skill sets? But they have the versatility and the different ways they can throw stuff at you.
And also, like, one thing that really stands out to me is they have a bunch of guys who maybe aren't the type to, for example, you look at Shea, and obviously Shea's kind of the outlier, but when he comes down court, he doesn't really need to find the mismatch. Like, there's not a defender in the league who can stay in front of him consistently without, like, just having the rest of the defense overcommit to the gaps. Toronto, to me, doesn't have any one player. I guess RJ Barrett, actually, who can just, like, consistently beat whoever's matched up with him, but obviously RJ has finishing and playmaking limitations, although he's been good. The main thing is, like, Toronto, all of their guys are skilled enough that, like, whoever has the weakest defender can then just be like, you can push that button over and over again. And so what happens is, over the course of these games, you look at the box score, and it'll be like Ingram 21 points, Barnes 19 points, Quickly 18 points, Pirtle 15 points, and just all these guys, like, they just have all these guys who just produce efficiently 15 to 20 points, and then off the bench you get like 10 points from Grady Dick or 10 points from Jamal Shed. All of them get like 4 or 5 assists. And if they get out from 3, they're just a really, really good offense. So, yeah. And that's without even getting to the fact that, like, their length and switchability and versatility on defense is also a real strength. So yeah, Toronto to me, I would say, is one team I kind of underrated, specifically just like how many different avenues they have for the half-court offense.
I want to add one more piece really quickly on Toronto. Like, just looking more so, again, at the, like, offensive scoring profile and their play type data. Dude, they are so versatile offensively. Like, their offensive, like, engine makeup doesn't look like a normal, the modern 2025 NBA offense. One of the biggest things I think is also helping them, they're living in transition. They have the second most transition scoring possessions in the entire league. It's the Chicago Bulls are number 1, obviously. The Heat are number 3. We talked about that a little bit in the last episode, like 4 games into the year, how fast the Heat were playing. The Heat are 3rd in transition scoring possessions. But then, okay, we're focusing more half-court wise. Dude, the Raptors are 5th in off-screen scoring possessions, 6th in scoring possessions off of cuts, which those two things a lot of times kind of blend in with each other. but still being like middle of the pack in pick and roll possessions and stuff like that. Like they're the balance in what they have offensively and how many like we just said, how many different stuff they can utilize each player for, whether it's Grady or even like their bench, Grady Dick, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, CMB. CMB's nice. I really like CMB, especially long term. So Toronto, you have good balance offensively. You have all the length defensively. I'm really excited. I hope this team actually does make the playoffs this year and, see what this core can actually be like going forward and if you have to make any changes going into the summer.
I also want to say, just like real quickly before we move on from Toronto, this is exactly like to a T what I wanted to see from Scotty Barnes to start the season. The way he's leaned into his physicality and just isn't really settling for any bad shots at all. But even more so, the passing, man. Like, anytime you watch Toronto, what really stands out is Scotty Barnes processes the game like a really high-level point guard. I was watching the game today, actually, just before we hopped on here against Philly, and there were like 3 possessions in a row in the fourth quarter where Scotty Barnes caught the ball in the short roll with his back turned to the rotation, and without even having to think about it for a second, just like dotted the corner. And they got like 3 wide open threes in a row. I think they missed all 3 of them, so I don't know if he got any credit on the assist sheet. But like, no. Scotty Barnes as a processor and playing from the middle of the floor and leaning into his physicality with other off-the-catch weapons around him has been just revelation. So shout out to Scotty Barnes. Shout out to the Raptors. In a similar line of thinking, a team that I don't want to spend too much time on, but I did understate their half-court offense or even just their offense in general coming into the season, which you kind of hinted at. We already talked about the Miami Heat. I didn't expect, like, they completely shifted their approach and their culture, like, to Eric Spoelstra went away from everything he's been about for, like, the last decade with lateral action, lots of ball screens, and really just leaned into isolation play. They're either getting the ball to the post or playing, like, 5-out drive and kick. And basically every single player for the Heat has just exceeded expectations. Jaime Jaquez has been amazing as a driver. Awesome. He's been awesome as a driver and as like a post-up mismatch guy. Point Jovic has had some run. Larson's looked awesome. Norman Powell's been a great addition. Bam Adebayo is not being talked about at all for having one of the most outlandish three-point shooting leaps throughout a career we've ever seen. Bam is shooting like 6 threes a game right now. And making them like a 36%. Like, he's just a legitimate volume 3-point shooter now. And I feel like no one's talking about it. It's the most insane thing because we talked about this a little bit last year. He kind of started to do like the fake 3-point leap thing that we saw from Mobley and Sabonis a couple years ago, where it's like, I'm going to shoot 2 threes here and there, and I'm going to make like 34% of them. So like, yeah, it's there, but the defense isn't going to respect it. Well, this year he's dialed that up to 1,000. And it's like, no, I'm just a volume shooter. Like, if I have an opportunity, I'm going to shoot it. And that's opened up so much for Bam because we've talked about how Bam's shot diet consisted primarily of short mid-range stuff and fadeaways and tough looks, and his efficiency was slowly tapering off over the years. And now he's like, no, I'm going to be a 3-point off-the-catch weapon. Instead of running dribble handoffs, I'm going to attack closeouts as a downhill creator. I'm going to get to the rim or the free throw line or hit the 3. I don't know. Bam's been awesome. The Heat in general are awesome. Their offense is so fun to watch.
There's one last like quick shout out I do want to make, and that is specifically a player on the Hornets. I'm kind of bought into the Hornets long term, kind of like they have again individual pieces that I like. The most exciting piece on that roster to me, for me at least right now, is Conkenable. He's so good. He's so good as a rookie. His poise, his awareness as a 2-foot driver, and already like game put in situations where he can be a decision maker off the catch or in second side action. We obviously know about the shooting, but the ability to attack off the catch, create a little bit, play off 2 feet. He looks like a pro's pro already. Just like some of the smaller stuff he's able to do offensively to create shots. And, he'll have a off night every once in a while due to some like athletic limitations and be able to just contain him on drives. But, in the month of November so far, he's averaging 20 on like 46% efficiency. I don't have his true shooting right in front of me, but he's been awesome. They just played tonight, actually. He had 28, 8, and 7, and 2 turnovers. Mm-hmm. He's awesome. Shout out Conkinipple.
He's such a unique player. I keep seeing people make like the Klay Thompson comp, and it's just a totally different thing. The like lack of any sort of, I don't want to say lack of functional athleticism, but lack of any sort of like hard athleticism. Not really much burst, not much lift off the court, not even much start and stop, but like he just kind of slow-mos his way around defenders, and then is so savvy with the way he's got this big wide base, and he just like knows how to bump defenders off his hip, and his use of the inside hand on finishes to just always like compensate for not being a crazy athlete. You know what's crazy? And this might be like the weirdest player comp anyone's ever made, because of like, we're talking just like no similarities at all, but walk with me for a sec. I see a guy who his standout trait is obviously the shot making, like the 3-point shooting, but more specifically, I think like what kind of complements that so well is the feel for the game and the touch, right? Just like no matter where he's at, the touch is just absurd. Like he's a constant threat to get a shot up and in no matter what angle he's at. And then he always finds himself in the right spot at the right time, no matter what's going on. When you pair that with like this funky athletic build with a wide base and just like knowing how to savvily, I don't even know if that's a word, is savvily a word? Did I just make that up?
I think we're making words up. It is like,
in a savvy way. Get around defenders in a savvy way.
Yeah.
He's Jokic. That's the comp. Like the way he play, he's an off-ball wing version of Jokic. Like that's how he wins advantages. Obviously, he's not like this Magic Johnson level passer. He's not playing with his back to the basket and getting 70% shots at will. But in terms of the advantages he has over defenders, and the feel and the touch, and like the way you can't really explain how he consistently beats defenders, it's really Jokic-esque. And yeah. That's to say, I'm high on Conkinipple, obviously. I mean, the floor.
You called him a top 5 player. That's all I heard.
The floor is like this off-ball wing weapon, and then the ceiling is everything else, like the ability to play off the catch, the ability to legitimately handle the ball and run pick and roll. And all that's to say, can we applaud the Hornets for their draft, man? They got Conkinipple,
they got Liam James.
McNeely. So Liam McNeely hasn't really done much yet. I don't really know much about his game either. So he was like a late first that ended up in the Hornets. But in the second round, they get
true
James
movement shooter
and Kalkbrenner. Like,
yeah,
3 legit. They are playing 3 legit like playable NBA players who are all in like game 15 of their careers. It's insane. Like I didn't see the vision with the Hornets rebuild at first because I didn't expect like them to just hit on 3 draft picks right away.
Here,
that makes things really interesting moving forward.
So, to kind of wrap up the Hornets conversation, I want to loop in a couple other teams, and this is completely impromptu, but we're going to play a game really quickly. All right?
Let's do it.
So, I'm going to list a few point guards, and you're going to tell me if their team should trade or keep them either at the deadline or in the offseason.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll start off with the Hornets, LaMelo Ball.
I'm going to totally cheat and just be like, it depends.
Oh, my God.
Well, it's like, at the end of the season, like, who knows what... well, there's one player you're going to ask me about that I know I'm going to have to, like, say it depends. LaMelo Ball, I'm still going to say you keep him. I still think he fits the timeline. I still think he fits the play style of all these guys. He was clearly bought into the system, like, in the time he's been into the lineup on both ends of the floor. His gravity is still a must to unlock these guys, and he's just been... He's a really awesome offensive player. So when you can fit him with, like... Sion James and Kalkbrenner are both at their best as play finishers or like connective pieces. Knipple's like an off-ball dynamic weapon. To me, the guy that would have to be traded would be Miles Bridges, because he's the guy that kind of like takes things away from the rookies, I think, with his play style. LaMelo to me enhances him, so I would say keep LaMelo.
All right, you kind of talked me back into it, and my LaMelo-isms were creating words, so there you go. Trae Young.
That's the guy.
Is
that
this
I was
the
gonna
depends?
say depends?
Okay.
Yeah, because I want to see what this Hawks team looks like when he gets back. Because they've been like the second or third best defense in the NBA since he got hurt, and they're first in assists per game since he got hurt. Which means like if Trae comes back and the assists per game are way down because they're playing a lot more heliocentric offense, which they weren't in the 5 games with him, by the way. He was playing off ball a lot. So if he can plug right into the system and they can still be like a really high assist team, that bodes well. But if they just tank on defense after being like the second or third best defense in the NBA for 10 plus games, that to me is like, okay, if we want to lean into this vision of defensive versatility, athleticism, Trey can't be a part of that. And you can probably get a lot for Trey from like Houston, for example, which would then enhance your play style with those, because they have a bunch of big athletic wings you can add to your rotation. I think I am erring on the side of keep Trey around because I do think this offense, the way it functions right now, is still like not going to work in the playoffs without a guy like Trae Young to kind of like steady the storm in the half court and be that reliable creator. But the Hawks conversation to me needs to be about Jalen Johnson, man. He is a monster. He's a monster. So that's the thing. I don't want Trey to come back and then take away from Jalen Johnson. That's the thing I'm worried about. Because right now, Jalen Johnson's enabled with all of the ball movement, all of the pace, and all of the stops they're getting to run out. So that's what I want to see. But yeah, I'm going to say it depends. It depends.
Yeah. All right, last one, Ja Morant.
Yeah, you got to trade him. You got to trade him. Like, not because of like the vibes, dude. The vibes are so bad.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
get a load of this guy.
Dude, he's so checked out, and the Grizzlies are so bad. They're just a bad team, and Ja Morant's clearly checked out, and it would take like a full rebuild to get them back to even just like a playoff level. So yeah, Ja Morant, I think you got to trade. And also, like, Ja Morant is quietly, I don't want to sound harsh, but like he's been really bad just straight up really bad. And I don't know how much of that is skill regression and how much of it is quiet protesting. Get me off this team. I would say he should be gone by the deadline. Like Ja Morant's got to be traded.
I don't know
for both sides. That's a mutually beneficial trade. They're both done with this Ja Morant Grizzlies era.
But like, I don't know who wants Ja. Like
Minnesota, maybe.
For what?
They need a point guard. Still.
I mean, yeah, but
Boston. No, not Boston.
No.
The Clippers. The Clippers, dude. When Harden goes to the bench, the Clippers' offense is so damn bad. Give me Ja Morant in LA, man. That's what we need.
I guess Minnesota is, but then you're. So who are you trading, Julius?
You don't know. No, I wouldn't do that.
So that's what I said. Like, what are you trading if you're Minnesota?
I don't know what even works from the contract standpoint. It might have to be Julius, or I guess Gobert. I wouldn't trade either of them for Ja Morant.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like,
I could see Orlando. I could see Orlando doing it. I wouldn't say it's a good fit, but I could see them doing it. Sounds like, I feel like it has New Orleans written all over it.
Lol.
I don't know. I mean, Houston, if the price is cheap, because again, that's another team that can use a point guard, but they also need volume 3-point shooting, and Ja Morant would take away from that. I don't know. I mean, you do raise a good point. Like, there isn't much of a I guess I could see like a rebuilding team adding Ja to their like situation. Like Washington, I can see Washington has missed on the point guards. Like Bub Carrington and AJ Johnson. Sorry, Bub Carrington and AJ Johnson were both misses. Ja Morant could be the point guard that fits the timeline alongside Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, Alex Sarr, and then whatever pick they get in the next year's draft. I can see. Yeah, I'm going to say Washington. I'm going to say he's going to carry John Wall's torch in DC.
Washington's easily the best one we've said so far. That's the one that I did immediately like.
Are there any other rebuilding teams? Like, I can't see Sacramento. Can't say
Brooklyn. Otherwise, it's a waste of 4 draft picks.
Brooklyn's interesting. I would say
Brooklyn
I think
trades
Washington
for another point guard.
Washington has the contracts to match.
Portland?
I'm not going for Portland. I need to see this team with Scoot. I like Scoot.
I think
Scoot.
Washington's the best one I like.
I actually really like Washington. I'm like kind of talking myself into it now, and they have the contracts with Middleton and CJ to make that work on the books, and then you can add all types of young assets. I guess the problem would be I could totally see Memphis overpricing Ja because of what he was a few years ago, and thinking they're gonna get like a haul of like 5 firsts for Ja Morant.
Yeah, and like,
Which
all
just
right, bud,
wouldn't be the case. But okay, are there any other teams or players you want to mention before we get into like these real or fake?
so we get to the actual episode. No,
The actual,
I think
we got to do a little 30 minutes, dude. I was on the Jokic Joestar the State of the League podcast like a month ago, and it was the craziest side quest. It was a Timberwolves preview, and by minute 30, we were talking about like setting up an influencer boxing match between me and Carson Brever, dude. Like that was the side quest we were on.
All right, I got $100 side bet on my co-host,
Dude, and Logan was trying to play side bets on Carson, so now we gotta set this up. Or we could just do like a little like tag team action. Like me and Carson go at it. I tag you in to go take Logan. Like do like some WWE style.
I hit him with a rock bottom.
Podcast.
You can follow up with the people's elbow right after that.
There we go.
Know what? Hey, $100 too cheap. $300 side bet on my co-host.
Yeah, I'm doing parlay. We're gonna whip up some parlays. Like you're gonna take me in the first round. 50 significant strikes. Throw a little like.
You
throw a little
give me more like.
I got you, man. I'm gonna be training.
You give me more like strategic vibes. Like
Okay,
you want to feel out the first round, and then all right, round three, TKO.
Do like the
ref
10
stoppage.
rounds. 10 rounds for a higher payday gimmick. Like I can end this guy, but I'm like trying to get maybe take a dive for like $2 million. Take a dive. No.
Sell
okay.
one hit extra hard. And just like
yeah, there we go. Okay. Real or fake? I've got 5 teams for you. And we're just going to talk about where they're at right now and where we think they're going to be at the end of the season. The Pistons, you kind of already hinted at them. They're 13-2, top of the conference. They're currently on pace to win 71 games. Obviously, they're not going to win 71 games, but they are really good. They're on an 11-game win streak. Is this real or is this fake? Like, what do we make of the Pistons?
I'm fully bought in on the Pistons. I don't think Jaden Ivey has played yet either, which part of me is I'm still obviously really intrigued to see Jaden Ivey back on this team. I'm always for, getting your good players back. But I mean, dude, this team's rolling right now. Sarah Thompson's awesome. Duncan Robinson brings them like just enough, like more than enough spacing. He's shooting 42% on insane volume from 3 this season. Dennis, am I saying that? Dennis Jenkins?
I think it's Dennis Jenkins. Yeah.
Dennis Jenkins has been ridiculous for them. Ron Holland with his just ridiculous energy that we've already talked about. I'm fully bought in on this team. And then Jalen Duren, I said this a little bit earlier, him coming in this season and just being a monster, a legit offensive mismatch. Like, he's averaging 24 and 13 in the month of November, shooting 72% from the floor, showing legit like self-creation bag out of the mid post. Obviously, we know about his chemistry and 2-man game with him and Cade. They could do a lot of different stuff. Duncan, one of the biggest things Duncan Robinson was able to like show in the latter years of his Miami tenure was his ability to leverage his shooting into functional passing in the offense. And they could get to 3-man action with Duncan, Cade, and Jalen Duren or Asar even if they want to. So I'm fully bought in on this team. Cade's been awesome too. I mean, I love this Pistons team. I didn't think they'd be 13-2 to start off the year. Some of that might be fake, but, they're awesome. They are really, really awesome. They have the depth. They have the size. They have, like I said, enough shooting. And Cade continues to be one of the best just half-court offensive engines in the league. And be a daggone basketball fan and pretend to ignore that Cade didn't shoot 14 for 45 against the Wizards when he had 46, 12, and 11. Just ignore the shooting and see 46, 12, and 11 with 2 turnovers, 5 steals, 2 blocks. That's what you look at.
Thanks.
But outside of that, he's actually had a really efficient November if you like eliminate that Washington game. So I'm all in. This is there's maybe some stuff about the Pistons. I'm like, this is going to regress back to the mean. But this is real. I'm all in on the Pistons. Pistons fans deserve this. You go from losing, 28 straight games to having an 11-game win streak at a span of 2.5 seasons or whatever it is. Shout out Pistons fans.
With the same core, too. With
the same core.
Not like they revamped the whole team and brought in a superstar free agent. It's these guys went through the mud, and now they're swimming.
They got out of the mud.
They did. I was high on Detroit coming into the season. They were my number 3 team in the East coming in. I feel really good about that still, and they're even far exceeding what I expected from them. It's crazy. So Cade, dude. Cade is ridiculous. So he's kind of taken that next step to now we're talking about just an S tier passer and playmaker. I think both of us had him in the back end of our tier 2 in our playmakers list from last season, 7th or 8th best playmaker. Now we're talking up to this next echelon of players. Cade, the way he uses his handle and size to get wherever he wants to go on the court functionally, and then the ability to make literally every read on the court as a passer. He's got every single read in his book. He's got the low man skips. He's got every lob. He's got the interior shovel passes through traffic. And he does it in lineups that have 3 or 4 non-shooters. They closed the game against Philly. I believe their closing lineup consisted of Duren, Asar, and Ron Holland. And Philly was trapping him every single possession. And he was just picking them apart and creating layups for himself and the other team. He'd draw the double, beat it. There was one play specifically, I think they were down 1 with a minute and a half left. He draws the double, gets around it, and then posters Andre Drummond. And I was like, dude, what are we doing? Cade is absurd.
Can I throw a case set at you?
Go ahead. I'd love it.
So really quick, I just want to bring this up because I brought up his some of his stats. Because one of the biggest things on Cade, and we talked about this a lot in the playmaking episode, was the handle and how that can limit some of his playmaking at times, specifically with the turnovers, right? So every year in Cade's career, per 100 possessions, he had at least 1.17 lost ball turnovers per 100 possessions, right? Last season was his career high in both lost ball turnovers per 100 and live ball turnovers per 100. This season, last season, live ball turnovers per 100, 4.49, so we'll just say 4.5 live ball turnovers, 1.7 lost ball turnovers. This year, only 3.8 live ball turnovers and half, 0.5 lost ball turnovers per 100. So the handle tightening up a little bit more, not losing the ball, navigating tight spaces. Some of the passes are he has a career high in bad pass turnovers, but to a certain extent, you almost kind of prefer the bad pass turnovers
100%
over just handle. And over his career, this is actually almost a whole extra bad pass turnover per 100, but that's way better than just having at least 2 or 3 possessions essentially where, okay, cool, I can't secure the ball, navigating, this double, I'm trying to split it. Oh, my handle. All right, we're losing it. So not to cut you off, but Cade, limiting those has really made him more of an efficient playmaker.
No, 100%. And that's such a marginal improvement that has such a huge impact on the team. Because now you can put the ball in his hands more. He can attack different coverages. And it opens up so many more opportunities for him as a playmaker and a scorer. The willingness now to take that extra dribble through gap help and just make that rotation a little bit longer. The bad pass turnover things to me is he's taking very risky passes or taking a lot of risks with his passes.
Very hard in our Luka-esque.
Right. Or Trae Young, these high-level playmakers who are going to take risks, try to take risks as passers on the interior, and 2 or 3 of them are going to get picked off by the defense. But Cade is even dialed up to another level because he's in these lineups with no shooters. So imagine what those numbers look like as the talent continues to improve around him, as they get more of these shooters around him. We've talked about, for 2 years now, the 3 big points with Cade have been the handle, which I would say he's already checking that box. The handle has improved. The lost ball turnovers, like you said, are way down. He's comfortable dribbling through traffic now. The second one is the finishing at the rim, like the touch, which has still been really poor. That to me is just kind of always going to be a limiting factor. I think there's still things he can do with his footwork and with his length that should help improve that, but still just like launching himself into really tough finishes around the rim, missing a lot of easy layups. Like even in that 46 shot game, a lot of his misses were really good process, and then he just like missed a layup or a floater. So I do think that's still a big improvement that needs to be made. The third thing, though, it was the ball security and the finishing. The third thing was the free throw volume, and he has really increased his free throw volume. It's up like 2 free throw attempts per game. Using his body a little bit better, but also same line of thinking, taking that extra dribble, getting a little bit deeper in the paint, making the defense commit to the drive a little bit more, and then selling the contact to get to the line where he's going to make his free throws. Cade's legitimately played like a lower end MVP to start the season, even with the limited efficiency. And that's with the 3-point shooting luck being in the gutter. Like he's not a 26% 3-point shooter or whatever he's shooting right now. That's gonna look better as the season goes on, and everything else to me seems sustainable. So Cade is just graduating into this new tier of caliber of player. And that's without even getting into the fact that he's just a really good defender at this point. I think one of the questions I asked you right at the end of last season when we were doing our top 25 player rankings was, where do you gauge Cade's defense? And my question was, do you think he's more of a neutral or more of like a slight positive? Now I'm kind of getting like, he's a meaningful positive on defense. He adds to a really good defensive team in Detroit through his switchability, through his size, through his ability to, he might be the best rim protecting guard in the league. Like Cade's a monster, man. He's a legit 2-way superstar at this point.
Cade is second in the league. It's stable rim assist, stable at the rim assist per 75 possessions. Number one's Jokic. Cade's number 2. Cade is top 8. He's 8th actually in unassisted rim shot attempts per 75 possessions. He's 4th in drives per 75 possessions. Like the finishing, okay, yeah, there's some touch issues, and we've talked about that and kind of highlighted that a lot recently, but he's not that bad of a 3-point shooter. So, like, imagine when some of the 3-point shooting variants and luck kind of gets back. And the defensive playmaking, like you said, is something that stands out, because if you look at B-Ball Index, the B-Ball Index is kind of the closest thing to NBA PFF, if that makes sense, in the sense of, like, okay, like, good resource. There's some stuff where it's like, all right, this doesn't tell maybe the whole story. If you look essentially, and actually I'm going to filter this out to where it's only guards. If you look at this list, or okay, just non-bigs really is what I'm looking for. If we were to look at this, at their defensive playmaking, right, and essentially like filter out like the non-bigs, basically, Cade Cunningham, and you look at their defensive playmaking metric, a lot of the guys that would be at the top of this list are all designated like defensive stoppers for the most part. You have some other guys in here that contribute a lot offensively. Their teams require a lot of them offensively, but out of the primary superstars, like in terms of defensive playmaking, like Cade Cunningham is up there. Cade Cunningham, the impact he provides for a team defense is ridiculous, and I'm so excited for the Pistons' future long term. Holy cow, Jeremiah Fears is good, or at least at these numbers that I brought up. Shout out Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen, 2 great picks for the Pelicans. Nice. Even though they might have just given the Pacers, in a clear rebuilding year, might have just given the Pacers AJ DeBonsa or Cam Boozer.
Their pick's going to the Hawks.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Oh, the Pacers. No, but they still traded the Pacers their pick back. Or who traded the Pacers their pick back? That's the Pelicans, right?
I don't remember.
I think it was the Pelicans, because that's how the Pelicans traded up to get Derek Queen.
Okay. Going back to your Trae Young question, if the Hawks get the number 1 pick, you trade Trae Young and draft Aaron Peterson, right?
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Right? Like, that's your point guard then? Okay, let's not go off topic, though. Also, with Cade is the versatility. Like, Detroit can do so many different things with him. They can run him from the elbow. They can post him up. They can use him in spread pick and roll. They've been using him a ton as a screener. And I think the best part about Detroit's offense is the way him and Duren enhance each other's skill sets. Like, the ability to use Cade as a screener, now paired with Duren, who's a legitimate ball handler at times and can play downhill and attack mismatches, is just like crazy. I mean, I'm not saying Duren is Joel Embiid, but did you see like the tween pole and like the weird like what is
Did
that?
you see the fade he hit?
Yeah. Like what are we doing? I remember I saw he was working on his handle and 3-point shot in the summer. There were a lot of like workout clips coming out of him doing like pull-up jumpers and stuff. And I was like, this isn't going to I mean, I didn't say this isn't going to translate, but obviously it's kind of one of those Ben Simmons types things where you see it in the offseason and you're like, how applicable is this to a real NBA game? Apparently very when you're Jalen Duren. And for years we've already seen this monster offensive big. It's like I can play finish everything. I'm kind of like a discount Dwight Howard. But also I'm a good enough passer and decision maker to run this dribble handoff style offense. And like you can dump it to me in the pinch post and get creative with action. I can make reads out of the short roll, but most of the time I'm just going to dunk the ball anyways. And then he improved his defense last year to the point where he was a legitimate positive. So now we're just talking about a great two-way big. Now with this downhill shot creation, the ability to handle the ball, and then the evolving touch, man. The touch is really, like, his mid-range percentages and volume are way up. His outside shot looks like a legitimate thing. His free throw percentage is up like 14%. Like, this is just a crazy leap. And I kind of just want to straight up ask you, like, is Jalen Duren right? Like, right now, Jalen Duren would be an all-star, right? Like, he's an all-star level player at this point.
Yeah.
Like, he's awesome. And isn't he still only, like, 21?
That's the other part about, like, the Pistons. They're still ridiculously young. Like,
Jalen Duren just turned 22 years old yesterday.
I almost had a take that might have got me fired, but I'm just going
to
hold off.
Rip it. Rip this
I'm
take,
going to hold off.
No, let's hear it. No pump fakes. We don't do that.
No jab, has he?
No, we pull from deep.
Ron Holland's 20, Jalen Duren's 22, Sar's 22, Cade's 24, Beef Stew's 24. Tobias is only 33, Duncan's only 31, Paul Reed's 26. This team so far, this team so far kind of gives me the similar. Oh wait, Jaden Ivey 23. I don't think I said Jaden Ivey. This team kind of gives me like 2024 OKC vibes, in the sense of super, super young. Don't think they're battle tested yet, but godly, they look really, really good in the regular season. And then this is the year where they have the benefit of like having some postseason experience last year, where OKC going into 24 had none really at that point. And maybe Jaden Ivey is the Josh Giddey of this year for that Thunder team. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. And Cade is Shea. But, dude, the way Jalen's playing, the way Asar's playing, Asar legit, we were having this conversation in the wing defenders list. I think he's just basically the best wing defender in the league. He's played like that. He's played like that for the first 15 games.
Another guy who's like doubled his mid-range attempts and just like showing a lot more touch. That's the thing with Detroit. They've just got guys, man. Like, Cade and Duren are just a crazy duo, right? You talked about Dennis Jenkins. He's like legitimate rim pressure playmaker who can also be a reliable three-point shooter out of nowhere. He came out of nowhere. He's a sophomore who only played 7 games as a rookie. Asar, like we talked about, just a legitimate two-way wing guard hybrid thing. Duncan Robinson just been amazing for them on offense. Karis LeVert's also been pretty nice as a secondary ball handler and someone who picked up the load when Cade went down with an injury. Ron Holland hasn't really shown the next step yet, which I think is like, I'm waiting to see that. He did kind of double his three-point volume at the beginning of the season, but wasn't really making them, so it kind of tapered off in the last few games. Ron Holland to me is like a player that I still need to see more from offensively, or he's the odd man out. Because I do think long-term, like, trying to blend him and Asar, it's not going to work unless Ron Holland, like, legitimately takes an offensive leap. So maybe and I'm not saying trade Ron Holland. I'm saying right now Detroit feels really, really close. I still think they're waiting for that ball handler / shooter next to Cade to really take pressure off of him. Because one thing that
Jaden Ivey from last year?
Well, I actually have I'm gonna get a takeoff. Actually, I'm gonna get a takeoff. This is. I've actually already got. I got this takeoff on Nerd Sesh, but I want to get this takeoff on my own platform too. The ideal backcourt partner for Cade, and I think it's a similar thing that we've seen with like a lot of these kind of lower volume 3-point creators that are like middle of the floor operators and pick and roll guys like Cade, Shea, Jaylen Brown, even like these guys who are looking to get to their spots inside the arc and can get hot from three but aren't actively hunting for threes. I do think the best superstar pairing you can have for them, or like all-star pairing you can have for them, is a really high volume 3-point guy that can play off the catch but then also brings a lot as a creator. So all that's to say, one of the takes I've been like, or one of the things that's been in the back of my head when watching this Miami team and the way they play one-on-one and the way they try to attack closeouts and things like that, is that they don't have screens, right? Like, Miami's offense doesn't set screens in their offense. Tyler Hero might be the most screen-reliant offensive player in the league. So I almost feel like Detroit with Ron Holland, with Jaden Ivey, would be the team to go out and be like, well, we like to set screens. We like to use our off-ball guys as screeners and guards as screeners. We like the two-man game with Duren as our go-to offensive action. And then you add Tyler Hero, this like 10 3-point attempt, 40% three-point guy who can also handle the ball and create, next to Cade, on a team with nothing but athleticism and defenders to cover all of his weaknesses. Like, I feel like Tyler Hero in Detroit makes so much sense for both sides. Just so much sense.
I hadn't thought about it, but that's one that I do like. I do
think a lot of people have been talking about Zach LaVine. And to me, Tyler
We're doing this again?
Tyler Hero's a way better playmaker than Zach LaVine. Just a way better passer and decision maker. And I think that's what you want next to Cade in the playoffs. Another guy that people talk about is Booker. But Booker, to me, I don't know how realistic of a target he is, and I feel like he's going to stay in Phoenix. Also, with Booker, you're not getting that high-volume three-point punch. It's kind of two mid-range guys, and I do think there's a little bit of clash there. Kind of like what we saw with Booker and KD. So, yeah, I do think a guy like Hero would be the ideal backcourt partner for Cade moving forward. And then we're talking about a team that checks every box. One thing I want to throw at you again, we might as well just make this a Cade episode at this point. When people talk about rim pressure, we always talk about just specifically the ability for one player to get to the rim and score. That's kind of how we view rim pressure. But we never talk about rim pressure in terms of, like, creating opportunities for your teammates to score at the rim. Like a Jokic, for example. I think Jokic has immense rim pressure because of the cuts. But, like, Cade's another guy who unlocks so much rim pressure for his roller, for baseline cutters. Not only that, one thing that I think it's super overlooked for Cade is how valuable his misses at the rim are, because they almost always turn into offensive rebounds. Like, when Cade gets to the rim and shoots 55%, the 45% of the shots that miss, probably half of them are getting rebounded by Duren or Stewart or Asar Thompson. And Detroit dominates the possessions. They dominate the possession game by forcing turnovers on one end, closing possessions with defensive rebounding, and then grabbing a ton of offensive rebounds. So you got a team that dominates the possession game, has a huge offensive floor raiser and floor general, has a legitimate, looks like all-star second option in Jalen Duren, so much youth. All that's to say, this is real. I don't think they're going to win 71 games like their win percentage suggests. I think they'll win 55 plus. I think they should win 55 games. They're a legitimate regular season team. They might end up as the 1 seed. Probably will end up as the 1 seed, in my opinion.
Hey, that's good for the agenda. I did say 24 Thunder. That's good for the agenda.
What is the ceiling for this team in the playoffs right
That's
now?
what I'm saying.
As
like,
currently constructed, no trades.
Conference finals?
So let me tell you something. In the summer, I did a podcast with a few of my good friends, like people that I know in real life. They have a podcast. Good Morning, Let's Basketball. Quick little shout out if you guys want to go check that out. They asked me, they threw a curveball at me, and they were like, "What is your hottest take?" I think that was the question. What is your hottest take for the upcoming season? What is the team that you think could shock everyone? And I said, this might have been like July or August. I said that Detroit can make a finals run, and I was like half baked. That was like half baked. I was like, kind of like I kind of just want to get that off. Now I feel like that's like a very real possibility. Like, not only did they get better in every way this season, I feel like everyone forgets how close they were to beating the Knicks. Like,
they're legit 5 plays away from winning that series.
5 out of 6 of those games were decided by like 4 points.
Yeah.
And the difference was New York was just by far the better clutch team, which really came down to Brunson was by far the better clutch player than Cade. But if Cade is like much improved ball security, everyone around Cade is better. Like, does that not swing that result? I don't know. But I think Detroit, I think a finals run is in play. I still think they're my third team in the East. I would still personally take Cleveland and New York in the playoffs. But I think Detroit's moving closer and closer to that tier. And right now, I'd say they're like a top 7 or 8 team in basketball.
All right, so I'll go to one of the real or fake questions here for you. Real or fake? I don't want to go exactly in order. I want to spice it up for you. All right, real or fake? The Phoenix Suns, as of this recording, the Phoenix Suns are actually, I think, now number 8 because of some results from tonight. But anyway, the Phoenix Suns, 8th in the league in offensive rating. If you go net rating, the Phoenix Suns are 9th in net rating. So 8th in offensive rating, 9th in net rating, 11th in defensive rating. Not to, get ahead of myself here, but I did a little bit of research in the past. And essentially, dating back to like the 1980s, any team to win a championship except 3. There's like 3 outliers ever, or not ever. 3 outliers since like the 80s. It might actually only be 2 because I can't think of the third off the top of my head. So we'll just say 2. There's 2 outliers since the 1980s for an NBA champion, and essentially it is top 12 offense, top 12 defense. The 2 outliers are the 2000-2001 Los Angeles Lakers and the Nuggets.
The
Kobe
Lakers
and Shaq
tanked their regular season defense. They were the number 1 playoff defense.
They were the number 1 playoff defense.
Yeah. They
were injured all year, and I mean they have Kobe and Shaq. And then the Nuggets tanked the last month and a half of the season. They finished like 17th in the regular season defense, and then they had the clear-cut best player on the planet. So they are the only 2 exceptions over the past basically 40 years. So
if there was another team to not do it, I would say it might be the 04 Pistons. They might not have had a top 12 offense. They might have been like a 15th offense. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like they would be like really close to that.
Let me see, because I actually have the tweet. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, because the Pistons, I think, were like about a league average offense. So that would be around like the 13, 14 range. All that's to say, though, let's talk about the Suns. The Suns are a team that, and I don't really want to talk about their defense because I was super low on their defense coming into the season. And I do think I was wrong on that, but I want to wait and see where it goes from here before I actually talk about it because, wait, go ahead.
Okay, so let me re-clarify. It's not top 12 offense and defense. It's actually top 12 defense since 1990. Because then, that makes more sense talking about that Pistons team. Just top 12 defense. But Suns still meet that criteria.
They do. So, yeah, the Suns, I think, no Jalen Green. They've had Jalen Green for essentially 1.5 games. And they have at one point, earlier today, they had a top 5 offense. Like you said, they're number 8 right now. I think one thing you got to look at, right, from a statistical standpoint, before you even crunch the film, is this is a team that takes a ton of threes. They're very 3-point reliant. So for them to be 14, 13 games into the season and being a top 5 offense or whatever, first thing you got to look at is potential for shooting luck because they're taking so many threes and it's such a small sample size. The thing is, they're being taken by elite shooters. Grayson Allen has been a flamethrower. Royce O'Neal, great shooter. Colin Gillespie, amazing shooter. And not only are all 3 of them volume 3-point shooters, all of them can handle the ball and make decisions. They're all just like crisp offensive players who can do a lot of different dynamic things. So you run through point book with a rim running 5, a bunch of shooters who can make good decisions, and the potential for good offense is just like staring you in the face. Right? It's so easy from that point. Booker has been amazing. He's playing the best basketball of his career. So that's obviously like the driving force behind all of this. But also, we've talked about this a little bit before, and I really want to hammer this point home. Mark Williams is one of the best offensive bigs in the sport. he is really freaking good offensively. His size, length, and hands, his mobility, his above the rim athleticism, his ability to play through contact, initiate contact, and generate free throws. Just this monster interior presence, but then also the feel and vision to play out of the short roll and find those shooters on after teams double book. Booker's own ability to play off the ball and diversify that offense, run through Grayson Allen or run through Colin Gillespie or run through 20 point per game efficient scorer Dylan Brooks, apparently, who that's the one guy I'm like, wait and see, because Brooks has been shockingly good as an inside the arc scorer. Like legitimate rim presence, legitimate mid-range presence, legitimate foul drawing presence. This team has shot making from every single spot on the floor. Here's the one thing that I think there are two things, in my opinion, that are super sustainable about this Phoenix offense that I think are just like things that a lot of people overlook. And it's the fact that they're really good at getting the easy stuff. For one, they're second in the NBA in steals, which means they're getting a lot of runouts. That's easy offense. That's replicable. Second, they get a lot of offensive rebounds, which takes me back to Mark Williams. Mark Williams is a monster offensive rebounder, but also guys like Ryan Dunn crashing from the perimeter and creating second chance opportunities. So if you're getting a lot of second chances and you're getting a lot of steals and you have a bevy of three-point shooters, like, that's a good offense. I'm sorry. And Devin Booker's a legitimate offensive superstar. So to me, are they a top 5 offense? Are they a top 8 offense? I don't know. I think at worst they'll be top 10 or 12 at the end of the season. Playoffs roll around, like, not much rim pressure on ball. A lot of their guys are jump shot reliant. Pretty high turnover team. And they're a below average transition offense. So those three things are like schemable to me in a playoff series. But in terms of regular season offense, like I said, you're getting easy stuff. You have a superstar. You have tons of 3-point shooters who can make good decisions. They're very clearly just a great offensive team.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think in the regular season, they'll be a just fine offense. I think they can teeter on the line of being a top 10 offense because, like you said, Devin Booker is just a legitimate offensive superstar and legitimate offensive engine. Legitimately turned into a really good playmaker over the last few years. Obviously, the shot making, the tough shot making. And I'm glad you touched on just like how overfilled they are with just guys that could shoot and attack closeouts and make secondary decisions. But like you said, once we head to the playoffs and we're talking about things that can be schemed out, in the half court, only 22% of their shots come at the rim. So they are shooting so many jump shots.
Yeah.
Are like short mid-range shots. 65% of their shots are exactly jump shots. Now, I mean, 51% of that 65%. So about 355 of their 1,000 half-court shot attempts are catch and shoot. They're shooting 42% on catch and shoot threes. So, like, in the regular season, I think they'll be just fine. Like you said, I think they'll be a top 10 to 12, maybe even higher. Like, I guess I'll go the range of like 8 to 12. I think they'll be a really, really good offense. You got to find a way to win the possession game. I think that's every NBA team's goal, and the Suns do that not necessarily by like being this elite turnover or being a team that doesn't turn the ball over at all and taking care of the ball. The Suns are actually in the bottom 10 in terms of turnover percentage through the first 15 or so games of the season. But, again, that's where the Mark Williams effect and some of the other guys that they have on the roster. The Suns are 5th in offensive rebounding percentage. And the Suns so far are 11th in true shooting percentage. So, top 12 or so team in true shooting, top 5 in offensive rebounding percentage. I mean, it's not really that shocking why they're a top 10 offense, despite the fact that they have a higher turnover percentage than I would imagine just about everybody else in the top 10 in offensive rating through the first 15 or so games.
The one thing I will say that's really interesting to me about this Phoenix offense, though, is, like, I think when teams are 3-point reliant, it's usually pretty easy to scheme for that. It's kind of standard. But the thing that strikes me about a little bit, that makes this Phoenix team a little bit different, is, like, it feels like almost all of their threes come from, like, above the hash mark. Like well above the break. And I feel like that's hard to scheme for. I feel like when it's like corner specialists, you can kind of do what Indiana did against Milwaukee, where it's like, we're going to sink to the gaps, protect the middle of the floor, close out hard to the wings, but then not leave the corners. Whereas with Phoenix, it's like it'll be like a pin down action at the hash mark for a guy to curl off and hit a top of the key three or something like that. And I feel like that's really hard to scheme for because it's not as simple as sinking to the gaps and closing out hard because, like I said, these guys can make good decisions. Like if you're going to like close out hard to Royce O'Neal, he's going to beat the closeout and make the right pass. Same with Grayson Allen. So maybe like I do think an elite playoff defense, like say Phoenix sneaks into an 8 seed and they face OKC. Okay, now we're just scrambling everything, running everyone off the line, and eventually we're going to make them mess up because they're not threats to score at the rim. Like for as good a decision maker as Gillespie and Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal are, none of them are threats to score at the rim with a rim protector there. So if you can just keep Chet close to the basket, there's not much pressure. But not every defense can do that, and I do think Phoenix's shooting threat above the break does have the potential, if they land a good matchup, can really put a defense in rotation. So it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting in my opinion. But yeah, just to hammer that point home, they've got a lot of guys, and Ryan Dunn too. I want to highlight Ryan Dunn too. He's been awesome as like a baseline cut transition guy. He's been really good. I think I want to go in the opposite direction and get really negative.
Okay.
Now we can actually talk about the Clippers. We kind of talked about them a little bit at the beginning and how we both expected more from them. I actually had them in my top 5 teams coming into the season. They were one of my top 5 contenders. Airball. That is just an absolute airball. And I think the offensive weaknesses, I should have done a better job of. I don't know. I thought one of the things I said in my Clippers preview was for everything you can take away from Chris Paul, one thing you can't take away from him is he's a reliable offensive organizer who can run a bench unit. That was so wrong. He can't even dribble inside the 3-point line anymore. Like, it's not just that he doesn't pressure the rim. He doesn't take a dribble inside the arc. He, like, will come off a ball screen, pick up the ball, and just look for a pass. There's no pressure whatsoever to the point where he just started getting DNPs because there was no point of having him on the court. And so the offense, when James Harden sits, just craters. Just absolutely craters. And I want to give so much credit to James Harden because he's had such a crazy offensive load for being in like year 17 or whatever it is. And he has more than delivered. He's been amazing. James Harden has been amazing. But what I want to talk about is the fact that they had the number 2 defense in the NBA last season. They were like, that was their whole thing was James Harden and Zubats can give us enough offense with our top 2 defense. And then when Kawhi comes back, we're just like the second best team in basketball. They retained almost their entire rotation defensively. They lost Norman Powell, who really wasn't additive to the defense in any way. Kawhi gets injured, but like Kawhi, they were a great defense before Kawhi's injury. So that shouldn't matter that much. And right now, as things currently stand, they're the number 24 defense. What the heck is going on with the Clippers?
Did you already make the retirement home joke, or was that off air?
I hinted at it a little bit on the show.
I'm looking at my preseason power rankings list I had, and I had the Clippers 8. I actually feel decent about my top 7. I actually really like my top 7. I had the Lakers above the Clippers, so there's.
I like all of my picks in the top like 8 or so. I think it was, except for the Clippers. I'm still in the Warriors. I think I had the Warriors 4th or 5th, and I'm still in. I just think Steph Curry's injury kind of made them look a lot worse than they would be right now. I think they're really good.
I had the Warriors slightly lower. Oh, wait. In my defense, I think I made that before like we knew anything about if Kuminga was actually going to be on the roster.
That's a good point. Yeah, they had like 7 players for most of the summer.
Yeah, they had 7 players until like September 18th or something. Like, all right.
Yeah.
What a blow to content creators. Yeah, dude, I just don't get it. I honestly, I'm stumped. I'm stumped at why this team's so bad because
I have a few ideas. I mean, I think most of it is buy-in, which like is obviously a cop-out answer, but I think it's so funny. Do you remember when it came out it might have been like training camp or preseason or whatever, they were wearing the shirts that were like, no, we lost to Denver because of transition.
Yeah.
They might be the worst transition defense I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right now. They are awful. They don't get back. They don't get stops when they do get back. They are
They
so...
give you more
that,
points in transition than what they score in transition. Their transition defense is giving them more points than they score.
They're so... I mean, is it just that they're slow and old? Because, like, obviously that's part of it, but also... They had, like, slow and old players last year, too. They still had the same starting five. And it's like... I don't know. I think that's buy-in. I really think it's buy-in. I think the locker room's gone. And they do not get back in transition. They don't get any stops in transition. So if they miss a shot, the other team's probably going to get a layup or a corner three. That's basically what it is. But the bigger problem is they're even below average in the half court. They're a below average half court defense after being, like I said, the number 2 or 3 half court defense last year. So I think I have a few theories. One of them is we've gotten to a point where we've always talked about how, like, schematic versatility is a big playoff thing, and, like, this style of anchor big drop defense can get you a top 5 defense in the regular season. I think we've advanced to a point where offense is so good and so versatile now that you can't even do, like, the rigid scheme thing in the regular season. Like, I think if you put, like, the 2021 Jazz in today's NBA, they'd get absolutely baked. And they were, the number 2 defense that year because it was just Gobert? Like, they would get baked in the regular season now. So what happens is the Clippers have this rigid scheme where it's either Zubats or Brook Lopez as the 5. All we're going to do is drop. We have this one anchor big that we're just going to, like, funnel everything to. And teams just know how to attack it at this point. They know how to pull Zubats into the action. They know how to pull Brook Lopez into the action. They know how to make these guys move their feet. And once you pull those guys out, who's there to rebound? Nobody. They can't rebound around Zubats. Brook Lopez can't rebound. So when Zubats is off the court, they just don't get any rebounds. So that's a problem. They can't rebound. They have no schematic versatility. I think one fix is you got to get John Collins on the court as much as possible. I know he's not the greatest defender from, like, a man defense standpoint or even, like, a rim protection standpoint, but you need rebounds. John Collins can rebound the ball at least. And Derrick Jones Jr. is out for a few weeks now, so that's another blow to their defense, but at least that'll force them to play John Collins, unless they just go Batum for 35 minutes, which I wouldn't be surprised, because he's been playing a lot of minutes. Not only do they not rebound at all, they don't force any turnovers. They're not aggressive on defense at all. Old and slow, like we've talked about multiple times now. The only guy on the entire team with defensive energy is Chris Dunn, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the guy. Like, there's plays where you just see him do so much, and then it doesn't matter because someone doesn't make a weak side rotation and they give up something stupid. One thing I will say, looking into the statistical profile, again, we're trying to figure out what's real or fake. I think we've agreed the Suns' offense is real for the most part. The Pistons' start is real. I do think some of the Clippers' half-court defense is fake. Being this bad is fake. 2 statistical signals, according to Cleaning the Glass, that really jump out to me. They are elite at limiting shots at the rim. They give up, like, the 5th most shots at the rim, and they're elite at limiting corner threes. They might give up the least amount of corner threes of any team in the league. You know what they give up? You know what their scheme gives up? Above the break threes. A ton of them. A ton of above the break threes. And teams are just torching them. Teams are shooting 42% on wide open threes against the Clippers, and 40%... teams are shooting 40% on above the break threes against the Clippers. That's not going to hold. I'm sorry. Teams are not going to continue to shoot 40% on above the break threes against the Clippers. So, shooting luck does point to positive regression. If they're going to give up all these above the break threes and take away the rim in the corner, teams should at least regress a little bit. But it's like, to what level? Like, we're the number 24 defense. If we get shooting luck, now we're the number 16 defense that still can't get back in transition and still is slow and old, still can't rebound. So that's the thing for me. But I will say, I do think that's one good sign. Like, we're taking away the most valuable shots and teams are just burning us on the tough ones. I think that'll improve.
Dude, the Clippers... The Clippers opponent, so the Clippers defense, the Clippers points per possession off of a missed field goal is the 4th worst in the entire league. They give up 1.25 points per possession after the Clippers offense misses a shot. The only 3 teams with the worst number are the Washington Wizards, the Brooklyn Nets, and the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans are god awful. It's 1.33.
Yeah. Not ideal.
Yeah. This is bad.
Not ideal. I do think, again, things are going to get better with Kawhi. You're going to get better half-court offensive possessions. You can set your defense more. He's going to force some turnovers. He's obviously a reliable wing defender still. What even is the status on Kawhi? I don't even know what his injury is or what's going on. He just disappeared.
I also forgot his injury.
I don't know. And obviously we can't just be like, well, when Kawhi comes back, because Kawhi's always hurt. He's always going to miss games. Yeah, I don't view the Clippers as a contender, if that's a hot take at this point. I had them in my top 5. I think I do still think they're a playoff team, though. I will say that. What are they, 4-11 right now, 5-11? I don't think they're that bad. They're 4-10. Yeah, they're 4-10 right now. I do still think they're a play-in team, at least. I do think they'll turn things around on both ends of the floor. Unless they just keep getting injured, in which case, then they're screwed. But, yeah, what do you think the Clippers' ceiling is right now?
I think the Clippers' ceiling is, right now, I think, and this might just be me reacting to how bad they've been in the moment, I think they've shown us that their ceiling is just first-round exit. I think they just have too many flaws right now. The defense, like you said, is going to get better, right? I'm not worried about that because this is the absolute floor. It's almost to a point where the only way to go is up. So yeah. It's got to get better. But the scheme limitations and the fact that, in the playoffs, we kind of know what their punch is. We know their fastball. And, all right, in the regular season, once they get things back going, they're going to get some stuff back going, and they'll probably finish the season middle of the pack defensively. I'm sure they'll figure out their offense and not be the dumpster fire that they are without James Harden. And that's where really Kawhi coming back is going to help out a lot. I know they lost Bradley Beal, but I feel like part of the problem was they were over-relying on Bradley Beal in the first place.
Dude,
I feel like
did you see the Ty Lue quote?
I did not see the Ty Lue quote, but I feel like everything, all their eggs are put in the Brad Beal. What was it? How bad was it?
Ty Lue said, after Bradley Beal got hurt and they lost it a game or two, Ty Lue said it's tough when you lose your third best player.
Their third best player is Zubac.
He thinks it's Bradley Beal.
Yeah, they just overly relied on. But it's kind of been that way since the summer. Remember when he said Bradley Beal, come in, be the two-way star that he's always been, the two-way. The past couple of years, the star is in question too, but two-way. What film are you watching?
It is interesting. So I'll say half real, half fake. I think the defensive concerns are very real. I don't think they're a bottom 7 defense in the NBA.
I don't think.
I think the answer's somewhere in the middle.
First round exit to answer your question. If I didn't outwardly say,
I think I agree. Yeah, I think I agree. Okay.
Which sucks because I had him 8th in my power rankings.
Yeah. What if I told you?
Okay.
There were 3 teams this season with a top 7 offense and defense.
Okay.
OKC Thunder.
Yep.
Denver Nuggets.
Okay.
Boston Celtics.
Boston's now 11th because of results from tonight. But
okay.
When the list was put together.
Okay. Boston Celtics, man. I saw the offensive potential. I did not see the defensive potential at all. Not even remotely close. I thought they were going to be a bottom 10 defense. And I think I missed the mark on a couple players. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation. Is it Josh Minot?
No, that sounds right. I think you're actually
Josh
got
Minot. Good defender. Just good defender. And I didn't think he'd be even a big part of the rotation. Even more so, though, Jordan Walsh, great defender. Jordan Walsh is a great defender. And those two have just been revelations as defensive wings for them. Neemias Queta? Or Neemias. I think it's Neemias Queta. legitimate defensive anchor. I thought he was kind of a flawed defensive player last year. Like, you could put him into the action and make decisions, and his processing wasn't always there. He could get caught in no man's land and pick and roll. Things like that. No, he's upgraded to a legitimate defensive anchor. You've still got Derek White and Jaylen Brown at the point of attack. And then you've got, like, passable defenders in Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser. So you've got, like, the guys. Then they've implemented this defensive scheme that's very aggressive. Like, they're just really aggressive on the perimeter. They're aggressive in passing lanes, aggressive pressuring the ball, aggressive in screen and roll coverages, and just, like, kind of creating chaos to try and make the other team make errors. It's kind of like the inverse of Golden State's offense, where Golden State's, like, going to run action until you mess up. Boston's like the defensive version of that. They're just going to create chaos until the offense messes up. The other part of Boston's defense is they are the best team in the NBA at taking care of the ball. They're dead last in turnovers per game, like, from a lower... I don't know why I said it like that. They're
From
first,
a percentage standpoint.
Yeah, they're first in turnover percentage. Lower equals better. And that's because
they're
Derek
ninth
White...
in opponent turnover percentage, by the way.
Nice. Yeah, so they're just winning the turnover battle, like, handily. White and Pritchard are their two highest volume ball handlers, and both of them just never turn the ball over. Crazy ball security. And they're not, like, creating a ton or, like, making a ton of crazy, like, risky plays, but the way they handle the ball and the way Boston's offense operates allows them to always have a set defense. Same with Anthony Simons. He's kind of been hit or miss with the three-point shot and everything, but great ball security, doesn't turn the ball over. And then none of their role players try to do too much. They all know their place. They've been on championship systems and things like that. So they know what to do and what not to do. Then they dominate the offensive glass. Again, another team that's just, like, they force turnovers. They don't turn the ball over. They get a lot of offensive rebounds. They dominate possessions. And that's kind of been the fuel behind them being so good on both sides of the ball. They're just getting more shots up than their opponents. And what's crazy to me is, like, my first instinct is to say, I don't think they're this good. Some of this is fake. But also, certain aspects of it are like Derek White has been awful on offense, like shooting the ball. That's due for positive regression. Sam Hauser's been even worse. Sam Hauser is like a negative 11 relative true shooting percentage. So, like, when he comes back to earth, they're going to get a boost on offense. They have the number, like, when I looked at it, they had the number 2 transition frequency in the league. It might be like 3 or 4 now. Just running gun style of offense. Fast, lots of threes, tons of weapons, and Jaylen Brown. How about Jaylen Brown, man? Number 1 option, Jaylen Brown. So, yeah, what do you make of Boston? Like, are they just... Because it's weird. They're the number 7 offense and number 11 defense or whatever, like you said, after tonight's games. But they're only 8-7. They're only a game above 500. So they're a really weird team at this stage in the season.
Well, the transition defense doesn't grade out well so far to start off the season, which could potentially be some of the issue there for why they've been able to win some of these games. But some of the, like, the data... Oh, ouch. Some of the data... It's got the meanest cramp. Some of the data actually really, like, pans out in their favor, specifically defensively. And I do want to touch on some of it for you. All right, so Boston forces, in terms of frequency defensively, right? They're 8th in short mid-range frequency per 100 possessions, which is important for the context of the fact that they also are top 6 if we're going at rim field goal attempts allowed per 100 possessions per play-by-play stats. They're top 8 in that as well defensively, which are top 5 if we're going at rim field goal attempts per 100 possessions. So the fact that they're limiting a 64% shot, we're just going to call it that because that's what teams shoot against Boston at the rim. You're turning a 64% shot essentially into a 38% shot against Boston, which is what teams are shooting from short mid-range against them. Like, when you can do that consistently or semi-consistently, that just gives you a big boost for your overall team's defense. It's just, creating shots and putting teams in scenarios that you want them to be in. And you kind of talked about some of the other stuff, man. Like, Boston, if we're looking at just effective field goal percentage, they have the 3rd best opponent effective field goal percentage. They foul. They don't really win the foul game. Especially this year. They're, bottom 3 in opponent free throw rate. They're bottom three. Actually, they're dead last by a significant margin in offensive free throw rate. But they destroy the turnover battle by a lot. They have a 12% turnover percentage. OKC's 12.5. The next closest is 13.1. And then also they're, like I said, top 10 in opponent turnover rate. And by the way, the gap between Boston at 9 and the team who's second, which is OKC, the gap between 2 and 9 for them is basically the gap between them and Denver at 3 for looking at offensive turnover percentage. So the fact that they are so clearly just dominating the turnover battle, and they do a good job of crashing, they're 9th in offensive rebounding percentage, on top of some of the other schematic stuff, and I'm excited to watch the film and see what they're doing more specifically, like tactically. But we know they're going to shoot a lot of threes. They're winning the numbers battle in terms of possessions and where we want to give up shots at. Like, Missoula ball is actually working pretty well, and once you get some like regression back to the mean, positive regression back to the mean for Derek White, Anthony Simons being a little bit more consistent, some of the other stuff we already talked about, like that's kind of where I'm with you, where in the sense of some of this stuff is actually real. I think some of the defensive stuff can be somewhat sustained. And you're looking, I think this is about right, like based off what the numbers are saying, how they've played at being like an above average defense. I know they were 7th heading into tonight. I think this is probably more so realistically at the end of the season where they'll be around the 11 to 15 range defensively. And offensively, it's really going to come down to like the shooting variance. It's just because of how they play. They shoot so many threes. Yeah. They're crashing at a decent enough rate, though, and not turning the ball over to where, yeah, there's going to be variance. There's going to be off shooting nights, but you're shooting so many threes that some of those are just going to turn offensive rebound putbacks or offensive rebound second chance threes. So you're not turning the ball over. So I think they're winning the possession battle enough on offense and doing enough creative things defensively to where Boston's a tough out. Super well coached, have enough talent to at least be the most nerve-wracking win of the entire season for, not like a super high-powered team. So Boston's fun. Boston's been a fun team to kind of monitor throughout the season.
Yeah, my kind of big takeaway from Boston right now, and the reason because like the reason why there's such a big disparity between their win total and their net rating is their half-court offense down the stretch of close games against intentional scheming and against more aggressive coverage just doesn't look very good. They just aren't able to reach those pressure points consistently. And I think some of that is some limitations with Jaylen Brown. Like, Jaylen Brown's been awesome in his like surgical use of the mid-range and getting to the line more, getting to the rim more. Just an awesome on-ball scorer. But I wouldn't say he's like that tier 1 on-ball creator that can just like guarantee a good shot down the stretch of games. And of course, Jaylen Brown has his own turnover issues. So when you put the ball in his hands more down the stretch of games, there is that risk as well. I do think there's been a couple close games that they've just lost down to like 1 or 2 shots because they weren't able to close on offense. And I would say that's their biggest weakness. Their other big weakness is that they aren't a very good defensive rebounding team at all. Like, teams do get second chances against them, and that's one thing that can be schemed for in the playoffs. Like if you get a New York, for example, with Cat and Mitchell Robinson on the offensive glass. All that's to say, half-court shot creation late in games, defensive rebounding, kind of sounds like Jason Tatum. Kind of sounds like 2 areas that Jason Tatum could really help you with. So I'm going to throw you an absolute curveball here. If this team added a fully healthy Jason Tatum in like April, where would they rank in the East?
For me, 4th.
4th? Do you think they can make a finals push?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why not?
I still just don't trust their depth on the right. Okay, like fully healthy Tatum is what, 70% of himself, like from last year for now.
I'm saying this is like Tatum from last year. Like he just dropped like 100% Tatum, like top 6 player Tatum.
I don't think their bigs are good enough. That's actually what it would be. Like their bigs against Mitchell Robinson and Cat, Jalen Duren, beef stew in the Pistons front court and just size, length, and athleticism, and then Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, even Atlanta could kind of give them some troubles from a front court standpoint, but like I think Boston can just make Trey and Atlanta's playoff half court offense super uncomfortable, so we could call that a wash. Orlando's half court offense in the playoffs I still don't trust, so I would lean fourth still, simply because their front court depth and just talent in general isn't good at all. And Tatum helps them a lot from the wing rebounding. I think they would win a lot more close games. Like I think they wouldn't be 8-7. Like you talk about the net rating. I think I could pull it up.
They're like 6th in net rating or something like that.
Yeah. So like they're a better team than, or at least statistically, they're a better team than their record shows. And I think Tatum would help them win some more of these close games, but I would still have them fourth.
That's fair. I think I'd have them third. I don't know. They're a really weird team. They're weird. Okay, so let me ask you this then. Like let's just hammer home the Celtics point. Real or fake? Like what they're doing right now, is it real or fake? Like, do you think they can sustain a top 7 offense and top 15 defense?
Top 7 offense, top 15 defense? Defense, yes. Offense, no. I refuse to kind of believe. I don't think this team's a top 7 offense.
Why not though? Like, is it just the front court talent again? Front
court talent, and then yeah, I'm just so low, and I think even though, well, if the answer was like top 15 both, I think they're just I think they will kind of balance out to be about above average for both.
Okay.
So I guess kind of fake, but I don't want to come off as doubting Boston because, like I said, they're super well coached. They have the data that kind of supports it being somewhat real. I'm still kind of just being super hesitant, I think.
That's fair. Okay, so without Tatum, do you think their ceiling is a first-round exit? Like, if he never comes back?
If Tatum never comes back, then yeah, because I think some of their weaknesses, like you said, I think, or like we've just discussed in general, I think some of the weaknesses just get drilled in, whether it's the defensive rebound or, the Celtics defensive rebounding. I think Anthony Simons just gets nuked in the playoff series.
I think so, too, yeah.
Jaylen Brown's weaknesses as a handler, just honestly potentially getting overexposed in a playoff series. Yeah, I think first round exit.
My devil's advocate take would be they get unconsciously hot from 3 and win a series. Like, I think that I could see that scenario. Sure. I would predict first round. I think they're going to be like a 45.
So 2023 Miami. Where Miami's was like 3 rounds of it. Yeah. And they had Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I was saying if Jaylen Brown averages 38, then yeah, they'll probably win a playoff series because that's what Jimmy was doing. But no, I think they'll end up as like a 46-ish win team, and like a 5-6 seed, in this weird Eastern Conference.
Well, I think when neither one of us had on our bingo cards, I mean, the Thunder are ridiculous, right? We knew this. The Thunder right now are first in net rating by a lot.
Without Jada playing second.
Without Jada playing a second. I think I was looking at like relative defensive rating. I think I was looking at it right, and they are again having like one of the best defensive seasons of all time.
Shocker.
Yeah, no surprise there. Shea's ridiculous. What I don't think most people had on their bingo cards though was the Houston Rockets at 10-3 being second in net rating. Not necessarily because of their defense. The defense is perfectly fine. They're 7th in defensive rating. But because the Rockets offense is number 1 right now in offensive rating. Dominating the possession battle.
I think it might be number 1 in NBA history right now in terms of relative offensive rating. Or at least it was at one point. It was like plus 9.5.
It's second.
What are they at? Yeah, what are they at right now?
Plus 9.1.
Second behind the 04 Mavs, right?
Yep.
That's
and
crazy.
right above the 05 Suns. For
And then
context,
you just get a Steve
16
Nash.
Warriors. Yeah, oh my God. Yeah,
You get a bunch of Steve Nash teams.
you have 3 Steve Nash teams in the top 7.
Shocker.
No, 4, because Steve Nash is on that 04 Mavs team.
Yep.
So yeah, 4 Steve Nash teams in the top 7.
So what's your take on the Rockets' offense?
Well, I was going to give it to you first. That's why I brought it up first.
Oh, yeah, I'll happily talk about the weirdest offense I've ever seen. We all knew what Kevin Durant was going to do to them. Like, add his shot making, add his mid post game. Houston's done a great job of like not overdoing his offensive load. Just making him like getting him in the right spots, making sure he has the ball to operate where he wants it, and not relying on him to initiate and things like that. That was one thing I was worried about when Fred VanVleet got hurt. I was like, are they going to get back to like this point Kevin Durant thing that we've seen for a few years where he just ends up turning the ball over a lot? And there have been moments, but for the most part, they're doing a really good job of getting him the ball in the right spot, and he's just been an incredible shot maker. Speaking of which, I was someone who really valued the Fred VanVleet injury, like in a negative way. I was like, this is going to really hurt them from a turnover standpoint, from an offensive organization standpoint. And I was like, they're going to need a leap from Amen Thompson as a point guard in order for this to work. And Amen didn't take that leap. Like, I do think Amen is still just like a really good player, but he didn't take the type of leap I was looking for in terms of what would make the offense function. Yet, they've got this historically good offense. So what's going on? I think one, Reed Shepherd's a monster. Not much 2-point scoring, like very limited athlete, and also like kind of a lackluster use of pace. He gets around the paint and just kind of throws things up. He doesn't really like play at his own speed and slow things down, and can't really fully beat defenders. So he just kind of struggles as an inside the arc scorer. But what he is a ridiculously good shooter, like unconsciously good shooter, one of the best on the planet already. And he can handle the ball and make good decisions. So if you put the ball in his hands, he can set up the offense, get Kevin Durant in the right spot, get Şengün in the right spot. And he's also a super aggressive defender who forces turnovers, so that just leads to good runouts and easy transition offense. Point Şengün has been a revelation. Leaning into Alpi as a point guard of their offense. And that's kind of like the silver lining blessing in disguise of VanVleet's injury. Not that I want to spin Fred's injury into a positive thing, but I don't think they lean into Şengün the way they have if Fred VanVleet's in the lineup. And I do think that's been like just the overwhelming positive for this Houston season has been that Şengün is showing. Because one thing we've talked about quite a bit is like, he clearly has all of these guard skills. He's one of the best ball handling bigs we've ever seen. Ridiculously good passer, can play in the screen and roll, can attack from a face-up position. But what we haven't seen yet is like legitimate offensive engine organization from Şengün in the way that we see from like a Jokic. And now that's what we're seeing. He's just such a good on-ball creator, and it's less about the shot making and more about how he just gets 2 pressure points every single time he touches the ball. Like the way he uses his body to back down any defender, the way he uses his footwork and live dribble to just like get 6 feet in from the basket, and defenses have to react to him. Teams are loading up every time he touches the ball. They're sending tons of double teams, and then he's just making the right reads. So he's creating so much offense for teammates. And then the versatility with Şengün. You can do literally anything. You can run inverted pick and roll. You can run delay action, dribble handoff stuff. You can put him in the low post. You can put him in the high post, the mid post. He can now apparently shoot threes at volume. Another guy who's just taken this crazy leap as a shooter. So, all that's to say, Şengün has just straight up been one of the best players on the planet. His metrics look phenomenal in terms of like impact stuff. And he's been the I was worried they wouldn't have a point guard. They do. It's Alperen Şengün. And it's been amazing.
Well, first off, with Houston, we already know they're going to dominate the possession game. That's the first thing that has been, a token in the Rockets cap for the past few seasons. Now they are number 1 in offensive rebound percentage by such a landslide. It's like absurd, to the point where again, like they're perfectly fine at taking care of the ball. It's not this overarching concern Like, they're 19th, I think, in turnover percentage. Like, okay, it's not great, but we're doing just enough, like, in terms of taking care of the ball offensively to where we get a shot up. Legit, like, we get a shot up, and we're either going to make it or we're just going to get the offensive rebound is just nuts for Houston. And one thing that's, like, sneaky underrated about Houston, in a bad way, is the fact that they aren't really forcing turnovers either. They're 25th, or so bottom 6 in opponent turnover percentage now. Again, they're dominating the boards. They're 8th in opponent offensive rebounding percentage. So, I mean, you're not getting second chance points against them, and then they're obliterating you on the offensive glass. Sengun's just been awesome. He's so good, and I'm glad you brought up the point about Sengun in terms of his ability to just be more of a hub for them. That's something we really, really wanted to see from Sengun over the past few seasons. And the moments we did see, this is where I think they were having their internal struggle with Sengun and Jalen Green in terms of the direction for the half-court offense. This season, compared to last season, with Sengun, he just creates so much more for their offense because he is able to create more shots for their team. Last season, in terms of potential assist, he was at per 100, 13.9. This season, 16.1. On those potential assists, 74.5% effective field goal percentage for teammate effective field goal percentage on those potential assists.
Yeah.
Versus 67% last season. He's just getting more touches. And Sengun, because you're playing through him, that's where you get the delay action, the cuts off of doubles in the post, or just the face-up stuff that we're seeing from Sengun also, and how much attention he's getting from that also. You're getting 3.6 rim assists per 100 possessions, which is just so valuable because he's creating the highest value shot in basketball, which is a layup or a rim shot attempt in general. And then the other thing with Sengun is, again, why we were asking for more Sengun, offensive engine stuff, because Sengun isolation, including pass outs, 1.16 points per possession. Ridiculous. 63.9% true shooting percentage on a possession that starts with a Sengun isolation, including pass outs. So if you want Sengun specifically, he has a true shooting percentage 56.2. So ridiculously efficient. Sengun post ups, 1.109 points per possession, including pass outs, 60% true shooting percentage. So legitimately running stuff through Sengun just works. And then you have the fallback of, okay, well, Sengun doesn't work. You have this just meta-human and Kevin Durant that can create and rise up from every spot on the floor. He actually hasn't been that efficient of an isolation scorer, and part of that might just be some turnovers and stuff like that for going on a per possession basis. But obviously ridiculous spot up threat, and that's actually the last thing I want to touch on. Houston has had a ridiculously hot shooting start from some of their guys that is somewhat sustainable. Like Reed Shepherd's a maniac. I loved him coming out of Kentucky. That was the two things I was so positive on Reed coming out were his feel and the shot. Little concerned about like long-term lead initiator because of the the athletic limitations, but can shoot the piss out of the ball and has elite feel offensively and defensively from a defensive playmaking standpoint. And I think you're seeing that. You touched up on that a little bit. But, like, come on. Is Tari Eason a 51% three-point shooter on 5 attempts? No. What are we doing? What are we doing here? So,
no.
That's where, like, some of it is Alperen Sengun a 45% three-point shooter on 3 attempts. Like, let's pause a little bit. But some of this stuff is sustainable. They're going to dominate the possession battle. I do think Sengun is this good. Kevin Durant is for the regular season offense, like, makes a lot of sense. Obviously, like you said, we knew where we were getting from KD. The one thing that I will kind of push back on, I think so the question, this is why I call cap or say it's fake, number one offense, because this has kind of been my thing the whole time about Houston. they're going to win a lot of games. I think I verbatim said, because I was like going back and forth. I also had a similar reaction about the Fred VanVleet injury. It's going back and forth for Rocket fans or just NBA fans in general on Twitter, because I sounded so negative on the VanVleet injury. Don't get me wrong. They're going to win 55 games. Like, their formula in the regular season works. They're still going to be a top 10 defense. I think there's actually still some room for improvement defensively, especially for them and the standard they've kind of set. So, still going to be a top 10 defense. Number 1 offense, I don't know, but okay, we'll go top 10 offense, top 5 offense even. I'll just say the drop's only to number 5. That is all in the realm of possibility. I still don't fully trust their playoff offense. And that's where, if the questions come in, is this real or fake, or what their full ceiling is, I would say it's somewhat fake, because I still have the same concerns about their half-court playoff offense, where you're not able to run as much, and you're able to, hone in a little bit more on what their, main offensive engines are in the half court. That's where I'm like, okay, cool. This is why the Fred VanVleet thing was such a big deal, because it's going to turn into Point Durant in the playoffs, or even the Point Sengun thing is going to wear itself out at least a little bit. So that's where my kind of pause comes at on Houston a little bit. They're going to be great in the regular season. They're going to push 60 wins, but from a championship standpoint, I still feel about the same.
No, that's totally fair. I would say I'm a little bit higher on them than I was coming in. I had them as my number 3 contender before the Fred injury. Then after that injury, I dropped them to like 7th or 8th. Now I'm back up to them at 3. I think they're the 3rd best team in basketball behind OKC and Denver. And everything you kind of touched on is the reason why I don't have them over an OKC or a Denver. I still think their ball pressure does seem like an issue they'll deal with. Especially if we're talking like a series against OKC. Like the ability to just get the ball up the court and set up the offense. Sengun being kind of like a somewhat of a point guard helps with that. I do think they'll have to start Reed Shepherd in that type of playoff series. Like the Josh Okogie at the 2 thing isn't going to work. I do think the ball pressure is somewhat of a concern. The other thing is the 3-point shooting volume. Like teams can shrink the floor against them, and their superpower is their offensive rebounding. That won't get taken away. Like, it's so easy to say, like, oh, it's easy to scheme for an offensive rebounding team that relies on second chances because you just got to keep them off the glass. You can't keep Houston off the glass. They're just bigger, stronger, and better at it than you. Like, even against Cleveland tonight, Cleveland was putting Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, like, double box outs against Steven Adams, and he had 3 offensive rebounds in, like, 4 minutes. It's just what they're going to do. There's no way to keep them off the glass. So that part of it feels very sustainable, even deep in the playoffs. But the 3-point shooting volume, the ability to shrink the floor will help teams rebound by committee. And I do think shooting luck has been a huge part of their like historic start to the season. They're shooting 42.5% from 3 as a team, 47% on corner threes. Like you said, Tari Eason shooting 51% from 3. Josh Okogie shooting 46%. Sengun 45%. So all these guys, like even Reed Shepherd, like yes, he's an elite shooter. Is he a 48% 3-point shooter? Probably not.
Maybe.
I mean, he might be. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, but I wouldn't bet on it. I think they're clearly an elite offense. In the regular season, I think they're gonna finish the season as like a top 3 or 4 offense. I do think Denver's clearly the number 1 offense. Even after like everything kind of evens out throughout the season. But Houston to me in the regular season can be like right neck and neck with them because what they do is so replicable game to game. And the fact that very underrated kind of aspect of their offense is they play so much zone defense that their guys don't have to move as much. They're not chasing guys around screens and things like that. So I do think they are able to sustain 82 games better than any other team because their legs are always fresh. They have a deep rotation, they have a bunch of young athletes, and then they play zone defense. So their guys are always fresh, and what they do, like they can just churn out the same system over and over and over again and get these crazy offensive results. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them finish the season as a top 1 or 2 offense. I would be surprised to see them finish as a better offense than the 2005 Suns. That's a little bit crazy to me. So that aspect of it to me feels fake. But yeah, I do think right now they are kind of pushing it, like burgeoning into that inner circle of contenders. Like obviously they're a contender, but you know what I mean? Like the inner circle. Like I think OKC and Denver are on a tier. and Houston's knocking on the door right now.
I mean, the Thunder are just the most consistent team.
The OKC, I shouldn't even say OKC and Denver. I should say OKC's like the inner circle, and then Denver would be like a championship team in any other season if OKC didn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, they literally haven't played a game without their all NBA caliber, all NBA, and then all defensive caliber wing.
Yeah. And they're like the best team ever, statistically, without that guy.
Chet's
It's like
back.
if the Bulls won 72 games without Scottie Pippen.
Yeah.
Is basically what's happening right now. No, we'll save the OKC glaze for a different episode.
Aw.
Is there anything else you want to mention about any of these teams or anything at all that's happened in the first month?
No. I think we can save all the other stuff for maybe a Sunday. But maybe we'll do a Sunday episode this week. Maybe.
Oh, wow. We're feeling very consistent this week, huh? No, I'm down. But yeah, we really appreciate you guys listening to our first official full episode of the NBA season. We'll try to be more consistent for you guys. Make sure to check us out on social media. Sean's on Twitter at Sean_Davis23. No, that's your Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Wait, that's my Instagram.
Wow. That's how long it's been. His Twitter is Sean_DAVI. His Instagram is Sean_Davis23. And on YouTube at The Sports Headline Show. And I actually figured out what you meant about the Los Angeles Lakers network. I watched a couple videos. Sean has despawned from the Los Angeles Lakers network channel. So you can still go check it out, though. Good Lakers.
Still go check it out. Still go check it out. I'm, of course, on social media at Tyler Britton _ all platforms and Hoop Venue for all of my main content. I will be posting regular videos for the remainder of the season, as well as ramping up this podcast schedule. It's time to lock in. We really appreciate you guys listening once again, and we'll catch you guys next time for episode number 66.